Hi everyone, thank you for joining me, Debbie from cariadcards.co, and thank you to everybody who joined in on the button debate on my Facebook page. I couldn't decide whether I wanted the button or not, and overwhelmingly the response from everybody who replied to my post was definitely put the button on. So here we are, we have the card with the button on. So I'm going to show you how I made this card. And I started off, as ever, with a 6" by 6" card blank that I've just folded in half. I'm working with Soft Sky today. I've got a piece here 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres, which, let's quickly measure that, should be 5½ inches by 5½ inches. And I've got another piece pre-cut here to 11 centimetres by 11 centimetres, which is 4 3/8 inch by 4 3/8 inch. I will put all of the measurements on my blog. Right, if you can see, hopefully you can, I've got 2 embossed lines which I regularly do, so any of you who watch my videos will know how I do those. And for that I'm going to use my Simply Scored board, taking the larger piece of card, which I'm going to put face down. When you cut it, you tend to get a better cut on one side, so that's going to be my good side. So it's going face down. I'm getting my stylus that comes with the Simply Scored board, and I'm starting not at the very edge, but about 1/8 inch in, and not on the very edge score line, which is here, which would be right on the edge of the card. I'm going onto the next score line in, so starting 1/8 inch in, and going down and finishing roughly about 1/8 inch. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be exactly precise, but the reason is that we don't go right to the edge, so when we pick up the next score line you get a square that sits nicely inside. So that's the line I've done, turning it 90 degrees, popping it back in and picking it up from roughly where I finished the previous score line, going down and finishing roughly about 1/8 inch in again, turning it 90 degrees, doing exactly the same again. I think I missed my score line then. And final time on this square, when I turn it over you'll see what I mean. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So by finishing 1/8 inch in roughly, I didn't measure it as you can see, I haven't gone to the edge of the card, so we've got this beautiful square sitting flush inside. Now you can leave it at one score line, but I'm going to do a double score line, so I'm going to pop it back in and I'm going to go for the next score line in, and again roughly about 1/8 inch, so I'm not going onto the score line I did the first time, I'm going in again. Going down and stopping short of the previous score line, turning it 90 degrees, picking up from where I finished my last one, taking it down and just continuing. And that way we get this beautiful double line embossed effect, which I really do love. I just think it finishes these card layers off beautifully. So that's what we've done. Hopefully you can see that. So we've got 2 score lines there which sit perfectly inside this card. So that's what we're going to do to that layer. Now we're going on to this layer, and for that I've used one of the new stamps that has been released in the Spring Summer catalogue called a Something Lacy. Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful stamp. Really love this, and it makes perfect backgrounds. I've gone for the wood one. If you can afford to buy the wood one, I would recommend it. Absolutely nothing wrong with the clear one. It works perfectly well, stamps just as beautifully. I just find personally for these bigger stamps, the wood ones are just that little bit more easier to handle. But that is personal preference. Okay, I'm going to use Soft Sky, so I'm using the same colour ink as on the card this time. I don't do this very often, but it really gives the most beautiful, beautiful subtle effect. You can see there. So all I'm going to do is just ink this stamp up. When I've got a large stamp like this, I tend to put the stamp flat down on the surface and take the ink pad to the stamp. It's a little bit easier to manage that way. Everybody will have their own technique and there's no right, no wrong way. Anything that works for you is good. Okay. I think I got my ink pad lid stuck. Right, I've got my 11 by 11 centimetre piece of cardstock, and what I'm going to do is lay that down edge to edge, being careful not to smudge it. If you haven't done this before, you might just need to practice on a bit of scrap paper, and I'm just rubbing my fingers gently all over. So you want to make sure that you've been over all the edges. And try not to move it. I think I might have moved it slightly. No, you see, you get this gorgeous, gorgeous, subtle background effect. Beautiful technique, a beautiful stamp, love it. Okay, what we're going to do then is, should we put this together and then do the butterfly, or should we do the butterfly first? Decisions. Let's put it together and then we'll make the butterfly. So I've got a little bit of ribbon here. As you know, I do tend to have ribbon tying problems, but I'm going to have another go. And if it doesn't work, I'll just cut the tape and you'll know. As you've probably guessed, because I turned the camera off, I made a complete hash of making a bow. And yet I did it first time yesterday. Unbelievable. I don't know why I find it so hard, and the trouble is, the more I worry about it, the worse muddle I get into. So I have tied the bow, I just did it off camera. I'm going to attach this layer onto my card base, I'm using card glue. You can use snail, double-sided tape, use fast fuse, whatever works for you really. I just like the flexibility I get with being able to just move it a little bit in case, like there, I haven't got it lined up straight, I still haven't got it straight. It doesn't give you long, but it just gives you a few seconds where you can just get it lined up a bit better. Right, I'm going to use some dimensionals on the back of this because we want some lift on it. That way it gives it this lovely 3D effect, and I know I don't really need to use this many. I just do worry about these layers not holding up nice and firm, so I'd rather just use a few extra to be on the safe side, but I'm sure you could get away with less. Okay, and I'm just going to line this up. A little bit more difficult because I am sitting quite far back, so I can't quite see. I think that's relatively straight. I think it might be out by 1 millimetre, but we'll go with that. Okay, and then we're going to do this absolutely gorgeous butterfly, and this is another set that has just come out with the new spring summer catalogue. It's called the Butterflies Thinlits, and it's this set of 3 gorgeous, gorgeous butterflies. These 2 are standalone ones. They don't come with matching stamps, and they make the most absolute, just stunning butterflies. This is the larger one, obviously the medium small one, and then this one works with the there's a butterfly basics set, it's called. I have used it on another card. In fact, I used it on the notepads the other day, if you remember. And that just cuts out a really pretty lacy stamped butterfly. Right, what I'm going to do, bring my Big Shot in. I've got my magnetic platform. I do really recommend, if you haven't got one and you're putting an order in or you're thinking of putting one in, treat yourself to a magnetic platform, they are great. Whisper white cardstock. What I've got here is called waxed paper. It's not the same as greaseproof or baking paper, it is different. It's called waxed paper. I'll put a link to where to get it from on my blog. And what that does is it just makes it easier to get the die off the card. The reason being, you can see it's so delicate, there's so many intricate little bits here. You can get it off the card, but it just takes a little bit more work. The waxed paper just helps it come off a lot easier. So I'm just popping that straight down with the waxed side towards the butterfly Thinlit. I'm going to pop the top cutting plate on, and because this is such a delicate design, it's worth running it through a few times just to make sure you've got a perfect cut. Sorry if this is shaking the camera and for any noise. So I've just run that back and forward a few times. Now we should have a wonderful cut from it. So I'll just take those away. Now you will get lots of little bits out of this. Some of them will stick to here, you just need to brush them off. And let's take that away. So there's my die cut. I've got the wax paper still attached to here, so just use your nails, or normally it comes off very easily. There we go. And in fact, you've got a perfect die cut there that you could just as easily use. It's almost like vellum. You could use that on a project. Now you probably, when you get this, will still have some of these bits in. Most of them will just push out. You can tap them out, or you can push them with your nails. If you do have any stubborn ones, generally they do come out quite easy. You can just use your pokey tool. See how easily they come out? I've just found if I run it through a few times, I get this perfect die cut. Okay, let's get my card back in. So just decide where you want to put that. You can attach it with a dimensional, you can attach it with a glue dot. Oh, excuse me, I've got a tickly throat. And a dimensional will fit perfectly into there, and again it will give you some added height. So just decide where you want to put that. I'm going to pop it there. And then yesterday, that's where I'd got to, and I thought, I do love that as it is. And then I suddenly thought, well, how about a button? And then I couldn't make my mind up whether I like the button or not. So I popped a post on my Facebook page and asked everybody, and overwhelmingly every single person said definitely the button. So I've got some soft sky buttons, Stampin' Up buttons there. And all I've done is I've just threaded a little bit of linen thread down, back up, and tied a little bow, which I have done, I must admit, off camera. I've just got a glue dot here. Let's just pop a glue dot onto the back of that. There we go. And then let's pop my button onto my butterfly. And there we have it. So that's how I made this card that I popped on my Facebook page yesterday. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave me a comment on my blog, or even better, pop by my Facebook page and leave me a comment there. And I'd love to see any cards that you make. Thank you very much for joining me, Debbie, at cariadcards.co.